Hello, let's check in with Astra again. I did six, I think it was five and six last time. So this is going to be seven, eight, and nine, which is Lauren, Nick, and Dom, all centering around the vexing, mysterious, I think we're all mysterious figure of Astra, this young woman who was raised neglectfully at a commune and mauled by a cougar early in her life. Has these kind of distinct scars on her face. Who is a bit of a piece of work. In these chapters, starting off with chapter seven, seven, eight, and nine, starting off with Lauren's point of view, because each chapter is told from a different person's point of view, with Astra either having a starring role or a glancing role in the chapter as well. We get Lauren, who is married to, oh God, to, I don't think it's Nick. Is the, God, now I'm trying to think about who Nick is. Nick is, oh, okay. Okay. So Lauren is married. She and her husband are looking for a nanny. She has major trust issues about exactly, or insecurities, who knows which one, about her husband, about hiring too good looking a nanny, uh too emotionally available of a nanny. Her husband is the kind of the ideal model guy who has stayed home and raised the child while she has gone off and done work. So in that sense, but she finds that because he's done this, he gets basically, and because he's also quite good looking, he gets worshipped by and pandered to by all the women around him, and she finds this rather irksome. Which is like, yeah, it's 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 one of these things of like, he's a unicorn, he's a good looking guy who's a wonderful father, which other women really respond to, and he gets heavily rewarded for it. Whereas if you're just another woman, it's like, well, of course you're going to take care of your child, and if you don't, then you're, and there could be some insecurities there. He has met Astra, uh, at the park, who's looking for somewhere to live, which we know after sort of the stuff with Doris, that even though Doris had kind of come to a thing of like, oh, I want to be the grandma, we learned through this section of the thing that at least according to Astra, Doris has come down with has cancer, and her immune system's highly suppressed, and at least how she frames it is that Hugo kept on bringing, childhood illness, colds, whatever, into the house, and it almost killed Doris. So they've decided she has decided that they should live somewhere else. I mean, this is how things get cast, and how, I'm sure Astor might actually believe that, but you can take it with a strong dose of skepticism, or at least knowing that everyone has their own story. Um, and yes, indeed, Astra and the husband, whose names completely escape me, do get that kind of closeness, and that's that with Lauren, who is tightly wound. Maybe not incorrect in her assumptions, but um, it's interesting that a later chapter with Hugo as a adult, he remembers Lauren stomping around above as they live below in this basement suite, always yelling and kind of arguing and being kind of like, ah. So, and that's just like, whether it's quite justified anger and stuff like that is beside the point, but it is there. So by the end of this chapter, it's like, I want them out, and indeed, Astra and Hugo leave. The husband apparently helped them leave. So there is all that. That the next chapter, Astra's gone on to sort of the next person. She's always got like another person on the hook for her. This time it is Nick, who, I guess they got married. They got married fairly quickly after they got to know. Nick is looking to get another mortgage and get a sizable house for them. He wants to set up like a big house. In the chapter, Doris dies of her illness and leaves all her money and the commune land, the commune, which wasn't in her father's name, to Astra. And Astra finds out that Doris indeed had been supporting Raymond and the farm all this time. Any they'd never made a profit. They'd never. It was always something. It was something. And Nick kind of looks at this and it's like, yeah, he was Raymond's a goddamn leech. They had an interaction at the wedding where I think Nick was expecting a certain amount of respect or a certain amount of like, hey, let's have an emotional engagement here, where Raymond was just like, yeah, whatever, and kind of wanders off in that typical super, super detached, nothing to do with you, buddy kind of way, which Nick definitely took personally. It opens with him driving her to a counseling, her first counseling appointment, which he had encouraged, and this ends up backfiring on him because Astra tells her story to this counselor. They get he gets ushered in for a what's he can only take only kind of a view from Nick's perspective is sort of an ambush session where he gets taken to task and Astra sort of opens up and he loses his temper and kind of lashes back out at her. But he thinks by the end of it, it's like, okay, well, we survived that. You're gonna decide that counseling isn't for you, and we're gonna go on fine, which means that by the next chapter, which is Dom, that we'll learn that they had separated for a while, and then yeah, they got divorced. That did not work, and yeah, there's a part of me that can't help but think that it's not insignificant that Doris died and that Astra became financially independent at that point. And then Nick isn't needed anymore, which isn't to say Astra is being consciously manipulative, but it's like as soon as she doesn't need someone anymore, she feels like they're smothering her. She immediately drops them like a hot rock. She's trying to run away from her father's very distant kind of how he treated her. But whenever someone tries to be actually emotionally affectionate or stuff like that, or controlling, because there's also definitely a thing here of Nick wanting things a certain way. She's looking like Raymond is so loosey goosey and detached that she ends up kind of going for super controlling, suffocating people at the same time, which you can definitely see that Nick might be a part of that. And there's a really good thing here, yet again, of Cedar Bowers kind of sucking you into a character and seeing things from their point of view. But by the end of it, you're going, oh, it's more complicated than that. There's more there's different narratives you could be having here. There's different ways that Astra is experiencing things. There's how the counselor, who you might kind of consider is being, oh, what a horrible counselor. There's another way you can say it's like, oh, but maybe she's heard from Astra about all his controlling ways, his temper, things like that. That it's like this dude is bad news for you, Astra, and I'm going to help you extricate you from it. So yeah, it's complicated. I really appreciate that from Cedar Bowers. So that is chapter 8, Nick, and then chapter 9 is Dom, which was like, oh, we're getting a Fast and the Furious crossover, but no, Dom is Freedom. Freedom has changed his name when he was 20 to Dom. He is like a financial advisor, planner guy, very comfortable, well off, living in a fairly kind of antiseptic, lonely kind of a life. Who does he get a visit from but Hugo, his son, now a sullen teenager who is always on his phone, won't talk to him, don't tell my mother that I'm here. And you go through a lot of it thinking, God damn it, just kick this twerp out. He's just leeching off of you. But as it goes along, you get to know, as Dom does, sort of, oh, Hugo is actually kind of a warm, caring guy. And I mean, a part of this is is I think you're slipping into him as a father caring for his child, and you kind of get carried along into caring for his child as well. Um, while at the same time, he's probably as messed up as Astra, and Astra has done a lot of that, has passed a lot of her messed upness along to him. You can't help but think about how she kind of enfolded him and nursed him and never let him kind of toughen up a little bit. And indeed, he seems to be somebody who has trouble with anxiety. They've been trying lots of medications, which you think it's like, okay, is this mother trying to fix their child, and they end up medicating them. Now they're trying the kind of the natural thing. It's like alcohol's not great, but weed is can calm them down. Um, all sort of stuff like that. That he came across country because he knew she wouldn't let him. She said like, oh, you couldn't handle coming across country. And this is a guy who's like 19, but kind of reads that much younger. He does have a girlfriend. And by the end of the story, it's interesting because it's Freedom Dom realizing that he wanted nothing to do with this child. I'm just a sperm donor. I'm just a sperm donor. And him sort of realizing it's like, holy shit, no, this is something. I'm actually a father. This is something amazing that I'm getting to be a part of, and is kind of, it's just like, this is going to be really amazing for me. This is going to open up my life. He sees an older gentleman who keeps on ignoring him, and he always thinks, oh man, he's like, he's always ignoring me. He hates me. Um, and he always assumed that he was like a lonely old man who just walked his dog. And it's like, I'm a lot like him. And it's like, oh, that's going to be like your life at the end, is going to be a lonely old man with only a dog to walk. Hmm. Um, but when they kind of have the final scene, he finds out that this old man has a wife, has children that he visits all the time, that he has dinner with once a week, and that he turns out he's going blind. And so every time that Dom had tried to kind of gesture, wave to him and stuff like that, and he ignored him, he wasn't being rude. He just couldn't see. So it's one of those kind of, it's a very blunt but powerful little symbol of how we construct our own stories about people's behaviors, whereas it could be something totally different. This guy's indifference and rudeness to him is actually, no, he's going completely blind, and is actually quite friendly. And indeed, he's puzzled at the beginning of the story because he's talking friendly to Hugo when he comes up. And yeah, yeah. So that was that section. The with Dom is another one of these really powerful ones where you have a character that moves significantly from in the space of that little chapter. You get like, wow, it's like these are all, they're little short stories that are all that. And this is one that Astra only kind of shows up as an email presence, or one phone conversation in the thing, and comes across as a caring mother to Hugo. She loves Hugo. Now, whether that's, you can love someone very much and still be bad for them, or not overall a great influence on their life. Yeah, and I'm starting chapter 9, but I won't talk about that. Not 9. I'm starting the final chapter. There's chapter 10, and then there's epilogue. The final chapter is Hugo, Astra's son, and then the epilogue is Astra, which I'm looking forward to hearing. All right, I will leave it there. Yeah, really enjoying this. Really enjoying this novel. Really enjoying this novel. Something where it can be tough because you can have real luff chap. You can have a lesser writer isn't able to make each chapter kind of punch. And while there's maybe one or two chapters that I felt like were lesser Lauren chapter, I don't know how I feel about at this point. Um, Doris chapter is really good. Sativa chapter felt like a little bit more of housekeeping. But Brendan, Clodagh, Kimmy, Raymond, yeah, there's some really powerful stuff in there. And then yeah, Nick was a really good chapter just because that was it's like another one of these difficult men. And yeah, Nick and Brendan are interesting. And then but balanced by stuff like with Dom and Hugo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really, really, really enjoying this novel. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.